Whew, that's a good one.
All right.
Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Kyle Larson in victory lane at Bristol Motor Speedway, an absolute domination of a race. Led 462 of the 500 laps, won both stages. Probably would have led every single lap if Alex Bowman, his teammate, did not lead the first 34. In what many are calling the worst Bristol race in modern history. Very difficult to pass. No tire fall off compared at all. You know, we went from having a ton of tire fall off in the first Bristol race to absolutely nothing in the second race. And then we also had the aspect of, playoff drivers were fine with driving and just finishing the race. Denny Hamlin himself said once he got up to the top three, he was fine just riding around. He wasn't going to push it hard because that's all he needed to get into the next round of playoffs. And I don't think anybody had anything for Larson. Larson clearly had the best car. But yeah, a lot of talk this week about tires, about short track racing, and about what people, like I said, are saying was the worst Bristol race, at least in recent memory, but possibly even longer than that. Nick, do you agree that that race was as bad as people are saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been watching NASCAR my whole life, basically, which means every configuration you can think of Bristol. This was the worst one. I agree with the Good Race poll that this was the worst Bristol race of them all. As far as the concrete, not counting dirt, but it was bad. And I know Kyle Larson had like a little thread on Twitter or whatever saying, well, but nobody cares when Kyle Busch leads 300 laps. Come on, whatever. The racing was still better then. Just because somebody led a lot of laps didn't mean the racing was bad. You can still pass throughout the field. If you have a dominant car, you have a dominant car. We didn't complain. We weren't complaining that Kyle Larson led however many laps. That's not the issue. The issue is when Kyle Larson leads however many laps and he still struggles to lap Daniel Suarez in 32nd place. He still struggles to lap whoever in the back, Kaz Grala or whoever. And then when you look, I think it was something like an Auto Racing Analytics or whatever. I don't remember that Twitter handle. But they had a graph of if the last however many laps was their fourth quarter median speed. It was like Kyle Larson out front and then 11 other cars under a blanket.
Yeah.
They all went the same speed. You could not pass because everybody was the same speed. There's no way to differentiate yourself, and that's the problem. We're not complaining that Kyle Larson led 400 whatever laps. I don't care. I've seen races that a driver's led however many laps, and they've been great races. No, the problem is passing here was next to impossible. And like you said, Denny Hamlin talking about drivers just kind of, once they got in a spot they need, they didn't press the issue, those kinds of things. So just a lot of issues here. And, as much as I love playoff cutoff races, this one was pretty much lacking any kind of drama because of the way the cut line worked. And we're getting to the point now where, if it, aside from Chase Briscoe winning the finale, there was no drama for Darlington either. I mean, obviously he won, but points battle wise, there was no drama for Darlington. So basically every cutoff race has been lacking for drama as far as a points bubble. And that's kind of, I don't know if the system needs some tweaking or what, but we're getting to the point where these teams they get into the spot they need and then they just ride. And so it's making these cutoff races almost worse as well.
Yeah. I mean, Truex was up there battling and it was close then, but as soon as he got his speeding penalty, his night was done. And
you
same
can't come back from it.
Yeah.
Guy's running third all night, second all night, fourth all night. So he's one of the fastest cars, and then he gets shuffled to the back of the field and he can't pass.
Yeah. Can't move up at all. Ty Gibbs was able to recover, but it took him literally the entire race. He got his speeding penalty. And I think that was he got his speeding penalty early, and then
his car went to shit anyway at the end.
Yeah, well, I think what happened there was I think he drove it so hard at the beginning of that final restart, and that's why his tires went out, because he actually passed people after that final restart. He drove all the way up to 7th, and then all of a sudden, and then that's when it was very apparent to me how bad this racing was, when he could not get past Daniel Suarez. And they showed it like on screen, him just side by side for what seemed like 50 laps. And then his tires went away and then everybody else was able to go. But it, yeah, that was just, I'm very curious how the hell this was so different than, and call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. I don't think that this was the same tire that they used in the spring. I don't see how it's possible. You can't tell me that
it was the same tire they used last year. That's what, because we had this kind of racing last year. It was a little easier to pass last year, but the spring was a one-off. We've never seen that at Bristol ever.
Right.
So conspiracy theory or not, last year was the exact same. The year before was, we don't know what the tire was in 2022. I can't remember, but at least last year's playoff race was the exact same tire, and we saw the same kind of racing, especially with the PJ1 put down and sweeping off the top before the race, all that stuff. We saw the same kind of racing last year. It was better last year, but we know we're having problems with this car at shorter tracks and flatter tracks.
And that was kind of the point I made with my tweet. I think it was earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday. I was like, I understand that there's the bias of, we had a great spring race here, and then we went to that, which was shitty. I agree. But I think people are also overreacting and not remembering the fact that this is how Bristol raced last year too. This is what the short track package is. So I think that's getting lost here in the shuffle a little bit. But yeah, overall, like, that was not, and we were all so hyped for that race. That's what sucks is we were all hyped for it. We thought it was going to be, awesome. And several drivers, I know Keselowski after that race, he basically said that their entire setup was based on that tire fall off. And that's, a guy that never really runs worse than like top 7 at Bristol couldn't even, I think his highest running position during that entire race was 22nd. So,
yeah. And then add in, there was more confusion with the NASCAR and the drivers and the track talked, and we're going to add the PJ1 and sweep the top. And while the drivers were happy with it, while NASCAR was happy with it, while the track was happy with it, the crew chiefs were out of the loop on it. I read an article about it, and all the crew chiefs were left in the dark about that until it was announced to us. Like, they didn't know until we knew. And so they had set up through practice, right? This was all after practice and everything, thinking it was going to be no PJ1 on the bottom and worked up top, I just, man. And I was actually hopeful. I was like, maybe that'll make the racing better. You get 2 lanes and stuff. And I don't think it mattered in the end. So I'm not worried about that, because I don't think it mattered how the track was prepped. You couldn't pass.
No. But that just goes back to once again, NASCAR looks like an idiot. Making massive changes to a track like that when nobody in the know. It's just unfortunate, to say the least. But some big names get eliminated from the playoffs in that race. Martin Truex Jr., previous champion, is now out, as is Brad Keselowski, also a previous champion. Ty Gibbs, after slipping back after losing his tires, he's out. And of course, Harrison Burton, who we all figured would.
No.
But
didn't finish better than 24th in the round.
Right. But 3 pretty big name drivers out of the playoffs now. And now we have guys. We have Chase Briscoe that advanced, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric that advanced, which I'd love to have seen what the odds would have been for those 3 to make it, like parlay those 3 to make it out of the round of 16. I think that would have been fun. But Alex Bowman as well advancing, and then the typical guys, Logano and them, who are already pretty good. But a big thing for Kyle Larson with that win and picking up those 2 stage wins is also the playoff points that came along with it, because now he starts this round with 39 points above the cut line, which is a significant lead, especially compared to others. Christopher Bell, 24 points above, Reddick, 20. And then we get a little bit close, Byron, Blaney, and Hamlin, 14, 11, and 7, and then the rest of the drivers are all super close. So before we get into this next round discussion, we got 3 more races before it cuts again. Anything else from Bristol? I feel like we didn't learn anything. other than, typical short track next gen package.
Yeah.
And
I guess there were only like 2 real incidents. John Henry Nemechek really early in the race, your 36 pick, and then Corey fucking LaJoie, man. He just seems to have an incident every race. Even Watkins Glen, where he finished 8th, he caused the lap 1 just melee of 5, 6 cars, whatever it was. And I didn't even whine about it last week. I should have. But Corey LaJoie acting like, it was just close racing. What, you fucking set off a 6-car wreck, dude. It was your fault. And he's always trying to make excuses for it on his podcast and stuff. So I haven't listened to his podcast for Bristol. I didn't listen to it for Glenn. I just saw it on Twitter. People quoting it and being like, what the hell? But I guess that's why he's on a trial run with Rick Ware Racing for the rest of the season now.
I was going to say, that's something that news broke last week, I think, after we recorded, that there was essentially a trade between these two organizations. Justin Haley, starting this week, will be driving that 7-car for Spire. And will be racing for them next year, while Corey LaJoie heading over to Rick Ware Racing to drive the 51. And not sure if he's going to continue to drive next year. But something digging a little bit deeper there, there's now discussions on whether Spire is going to be to Hendrick what 2311 is to Joe Gibbs Racing. And that is very interesting. We talked at the beginning of the season. I remember our discussion. I want to say it was the pre-Daytona 500 episode, but you talked about how much money was getting pumped into Spire, all the game bridge money coming in. I mean, obviously, they went out and got Roddy Childers. They're expanding next year, doing everything. That's some big news to keep an eye on, whether we could easily, if that type of relationship is happening, we could legitimately, not easily, I did not mean to say easily, we could legitimately be talking about Spire Motorsports winning cup races next year and the year after already. Which is just wild to think about how this team went from a pure backmarker car to potentially an actual race winner. But yeah, something to keep an eye on. I'm curious how you think Haley and LaJoie are going to do in their respective new rides to close out this year. Is there going to be growing pains or getting used to pains, or you think, these guys are just going to get right in their cars and they're going to run about where they should?
I think Corey LaJoie's going to be terrible because I don't think he's very good in general. And now he's downgrading his team. And I don't know. Justin Haley, he's a very good driver. I have high hopes for him, but you're right. There could be a feeling out process with the new team. That said, if they don't need that filling out process, there's maybe the most potential of any Spire car ever with Justin Haley behind the wheel. I think I rate him pretty highly. And if you go back to Las Vegas, the first, we're coming to Kansas. If you go back to the first Las Vegas race, which is Kansas's most comparable comp, to put it any other way. I mean, Corey LaJoie ran in the top 10 for a lot of that race. Carson Hocevar ran in the top 12 for a lot of that race. And Zane Smith crashed on lap 4 because, I bet his top 10 and all these things.
And I tweeted out before the race, I bet, or I hope he doesn't, 4. I hope someone doesn't wreck out lap 4 and then fucking lap 4 comes around.
Yep. So they had speed at Vegas. So, maybe there's hope for them at Kansas. And if Justin Haley can do something, I mean, that'd be interesting.
I was just say Spire continued to have their speed last week. Corey LaJoie, he was involved in that incident, but he qualified 9th. Carson Hocevar qualified 7th, finished 18th. Zane Smith was able to stay one lap down all night, rallied for a 16th place finish. Those guys have had speed, especially compared to where
short run speed at Bristol. Those cars were not good on the long run, though.
Zane wasn't bad in his final run.
Zane was good. But which surprised me because when I ran lap by lap practice flags, he was way out there, but also he kind of didn't really have a representative sample.
Yeah.
And I just saw Hocevar. I was like, man, he looks good because he went out early. So Bristol was weird in that we had the 45-minute session, but 18, 20 cars went out right at the beginning when the track was green and set down just fast fucking laps. So people look at 10-lap averages and, these guys are so fast, but not realizing the track was perfectly green, different conditions. So I did flags for every driver's second set of tires, and Hosvar really fell off, and we saw that in the race. He was started well, but just went straight backward. He didn't have a good long run car. He could make something on the short run, but long run, Hosvar didn't really have a car, and similar for LaJoy. But somehow Zane Smith actually did have a good long run car, and so that was kind of interesting. Good to see him get up to 16th place. His practice flags from the second set of tires were kind of non-representative, I think, and so it's hard to get a judgment on him from practice.
And that was another frustrating thing of this past weekend. Like I was like, oh, we're gonna, we have a full session of practice. We're gonna be able to really look into this, really dig in and find value. And then the session turns out like that, where half the cars didn't go for 20 minutes and all that.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. Michael McDowell had another solid finish at Bristol. In the next gen era, he has not finished worse than the 11th. Finished 11th again.
Incredible.
Of course, I had him plus 470 for a top 10. So that was fun. Bubba Wallace, top 3 finish. Passed Denny Hamlin with 1 or 2 laps to go. Again, Hamlin wasn't really running 100%. He just wanted to finish the race. So Bubba gets a 3rd place finish. Christopher Bell with another solid run there in the top 5. Blaney, despite qualifying way back in 22nd, had a good race. Ryan Preece, he's really good at Bristol. I don't want to give that guy any credit, but he is very good at Bristol. I think we talked about it last week.
We how he's done the Wayland Modified Tour there a lot and stuff. We talked about how good he was, and great race for Ryan Preece.
Yeah, and Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe was like legitimately running top 5 most of the day, and I am very curious to see how Briscoe does. I feel like Stuart Haas has suddenly found some speed, and if there's an underdog in these playoffs that I can get behind in advancing, I think it's going to be Chase Briscoe.
Very much worry about Kansas. Certainly I worry about that. But Noah Gragson had a lot of speed at Vegas and Kansas earlier in the year, so if that can translate. But how about a big old what the fuck from Josh Berry at Bristol? Because that car had speed in practice. Yeah. I know when people look at like 5, 10, whatever lap averages, he wasn't good, but he made his like better run in the second stint of tires and looked so much better compared to everybody else in the second stint of tires. And he was just garbage.
Oh, he was
for bad. A guy who was one of the better cars in the first Bristol race. And I understand that the tire fall off was different, but like, how do you go from that to being total garbage?
Yeah.
Especially when your teammates were good.
Yeah. Before qualifying, I want to say his top 10 odds were like minus 150. Like that's how much books were valuing him last week, and just shit the bed. As did Daniel Suarez. That was another team that they were completely set up for tire fall off. But I believe that, but at the same time, Chastain finished top 10, qualified 12th. Suarez was just dog shit the entire weekend. Qualified 35th, looked like shit in practice, looked even shittier in the race. Yep. Luckily for him, he had good finishes at Atlanta and the Glen that got him through to the next round. But damn, I think that's another frustrating thing that people are seeing with this Bristol race is
for sure.
Shout out to Austin Cindric though. I think that's his best career finish at Bristol at 13th. That gets him to the next round as well.
Yeah, he had a good car. He is not the best driver, I don't think. But he had a good car, and he was able to take it to a 13th. I think a more talented driver would have taken that to a top 8-5 finish because that thing had speed.
Yeah, the Penske cars were solid. Blaney was really good. Logano was good till I think something happened to him. I forget. But he had good speed running up. Couple of playoff drivers, or at least one, that I feel like their strategy call could have potentially saved them if things had gone awry. Tyler Reddick, he's just not good at Bristol for whatever reason. Finished 20th, but they did make that strategy call at the end of the second stage to go up there and get the points in case they needed it. And it kind of got a little close. So if he would make it to Phoenix, I think they need to look back at that race and be like, that could have been a season-saving thing right there. Because, a couple more things go wrong and he could have been missing out. But anything else on Bristol for you?
I don't think so. I mean, we pretty much touched on it all. I think we touched on most of the teams. It was hard to get a gauge on maybe a couple of these other drivers. Like obviously John Hunter Nemechek had the early problem, but like Eric Jones, typically pretty good at Bristol. For whatever reason, they weren't good. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wasn't good, and he's usually good at Bristol.
Chris Buescher.
Well, yeah, RFK as a whole was not good. Like you said, they were set up probably for fall off, but very weird race. It's always interesting when you see like, okay, a team hit it and one driver just missed it, like Josh Berry or Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen. Like Todd Gillen was out to lunch. So it's Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez. Like, what is going on in those situations? Is that just drivers being good at a track and drivers not being good at a track? But it kind of puzzles me because Josh Berry was so good in that first Bristol race. But nothing else really from Bristol. Just kind of some weird observations, I guess, there.
Yeah, and we're glad that we're on and away from Bristol. I'll say that.
I'll tell you what, man. It's going to be nice to go to Kansas. I know we're not quite there yet. We got to talk playoffs and stuff, but go to a track where we know how things work, right? And we don't have to guess at practice and track conditions and tire conditions and stuff like that. It'll be nice to have and I guess to wrap up Bristol here, I think I only made like 5 or 6 bets, and they were all tiny bets other than my Alex Bowman top 10, which covered all my tiny losses. I think I ended up break even, technically minus 0.04 units, right? Like break even because my one normal size bet covered all the sprinkle losses I had. And that's what we said. We weren't going to go heavy on Bristol, and we didn't.
Yeah, I ended up with a small profit on the card just because I had Larson at 5-1 to win stage 1. That's
nice.
That's the only bet I had. Like, I had half unit on it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be getting any like race day bets these days with NFL, especially.
Oh no,
it's going to be very, very few and far between for me, unless I see something crazy and I'm paying attention to it.
Right.
But for me right now, it's mostly midweek, and then like right when lines open after practice. I can't wait until like overnight on Sunday mornings, because Sunday mornings I'm 100% NFL until it starts.
Yeah. The only other bet I made Michael McDowell top 10 last week, I think before we even recorded, just because I wanted the plus 470. But then FanDuel, I don't know if their system glitched or what, but all of their top 10 lines moved significantly longer and stayed like that for about 10 minutes and then moved back normal. So they had Buescher at plus 210. So I hit that. I wasn't going to pass up Buescher 210 at, for a top 10 at Bristol, even though he qualified 17th. Yeah. Obviously that one didn't hit, but I didn't know what the hell was going on there. But yeah. I have a feeling this week at Kansas might be another light betting week for me. I don't know. We'll see. But first, playoff standings. Kyle Larson, like I said, has a nice 39-point advantage over the cut line heading in. Christopher Bell's looking good, plus 24. Reddick and Byron, plus 20, plus 14. Blaney, plus 11. Hamlin's only plus 7 after that big penalty. Chase Elliott's only plus 6. Logano's plus 4. That's heading into the first race of this third round. We got Kansas, Talladega, and what's the third race? It's a road course. Roval, right?
Yeah, Roval.
Yeah. Cindric is in 9th, currently on the outside looking in, minus 4. Daniel Suarez is minus 6. Alex Bowman, minus 7. Chase Briscoe, minus 7 as well. And this round has another potential to be a little interesting, especially with Talladega in there. Like, we don't know what the hell Talladega is going to bring. Typically, the super speedway races in the playoffs are a lot more drivers race conservative. We don't get as many wrecks, but the potential's still there. And then, of course, the road course, we saw how Watkins Glen went. There's no guarantee that these are going to go. That is so loud.
I was, I have my, so I've been listening to our past episodes. I'm like, man, you can't hear the beer crack really. So I've been turning the gain up. I've been turning the gain up to make sure it really captures it when I do it.
Oh, you know why it does that though?
Why?
So when I edit it at the afterwards,
Oh,
I take out noise reduction, and that counts it as a
that's
noise. Yeah. So if I don't, it sounds perfect. But if I do,
you got to do
then it
noise
takes
reduction from after the first second.
right. Yes, that's what I need to do.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's why.
So I turned the gain up to make it louder because I didn't know you were doing the noise reduction, which makes sense. You definitely should. I mean, that's a good thing to do for the podcast. But yeah, I wasn't thinking about it because I was like, man, I'm not hearing the beer crack anymore. So let me turn it up. Maybe my mic's not capturing it.
I should have told you that. I'm curious to see what that sounds like though. With after I do noise reduction, if that
yeah, we'll see
if it still comes through. But yeah, a lot of obviously we got rid of Truex after the first round, Gibbs, Keselowski, so 3 pretty heavy hitters out. But like I said, we got Talladega, we got Charlotte Roval, and then Kansas this week. Could we see some of these Cindrics, Suarez's, or Briscoes make it through to the round 8? What do you think the chances are of that?
Oh, I mean, very high, right? Like, if we include Alex Bowman in that, Briscoe, Bowman, Suarez, and Cindric are all great road course racers. Any of them can do something at Talladega. And Bowman is very good at these mile and a halves that have wear. Like, I wouldn't say high wear, but, like medium-ish wear like Vegas and Kansas. Suarez / Trackhouse typically has been good at these tracks. I know Kansas was a struggle, but Suarez finished 11th at Vegas. Didn't look that great, though, in Vegas. That was more of a better finish, although he did have that weird tire stint where he took no tires and fell back. And Cindric, not so great at Kansas. But, I mean, Austin Cindric, right in the mix for Talladega. Daniel Suarez could be in the mix for Talladega. Chase Briscoe, he's led laps at super speedways. And Alex Bowman, while he's never been amazing at dominating super speedways, he's always a guy who could lurk in the top 3 or 5, especially at the end of a race. So, yeah, I mean, why not? All it takes is Denny Hamlin or Ryan Blaney or William Byron to have a problem, get caught in a big one at Talladega, or get a world's biggest trash bag on their grill like Byron did at Las Vegas, at Kansas. So absolutely. I mean, there's 4 of them. Odds are those aren't going to be the 4 out.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Bowman being pretty good at Kansas, and I was looking at his stats here earlier today, and in the next gen era, he has yet to finish worse than 10th. He led 107 laps here in 2022, and he's finished 11th or better in 10 of the last 11 races at Kansas. Yep. Alex Bowman's pretty good here, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he somehow stole it and
like he did at Vegas.
Yeah,
like he did at Vegas, and Kyle Busch complained that he backed into a win, right? Yeah. That always sticks with me. That's why I always remember Bowman at Vegas and Kansas. He backed into a win. He didn't back into a win. He had a damn good car and won it on a late restart. That's not backing into a win. He ran top 5 all damn day, basically.
I remember that race because I bet Bowman outright that race because Hendrick overall had so much speed, but nobody was talking about Bowman. I'm like, they're the same car, Yeah.
And just looking at odds right now, Alex Bowman 35-1 at Caesars is interesting. And I know we're not on to Kansas yet, but definitely interesting from what I'm seeing out there in terms of odds. But as far as the playoffs, didn't we make predictions for round 1 who would miss the cut, make the cut?
Yep. Let me pull those up real quick.
Because I was gonna say I don't remember exactly what the results of that were for each of us.
1 second here. All right. Your 4 out were Chase Briscoe, Harrison Burton, Austin Cindric, and Alex Bowman.
Bowman, Cindric, Burton, and who?
Briscoe, Burton, Cindric, Bowman.
Briscoe, Burton, Cindric, Bowman. So I only got Burton. Wow.
Yep. 1 for 3. And my 4 were Burton, Briscoe, Suarez, and Blaney. So I was also 1 for 3.
1 for 3. We did equally terrible.
Yes. My big name out potential was, of course, Hamlin, and as was yours.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and who are your first 4 out of this round?
Daniel Suarez. Joey Logano. Man, this is tough.
It is.
Daniel Suarez, Joey Logano, I feel pretty comfortable about. I like these tracks for Cindric, which, aside from Kansas, but I think I'm going to eliminate. Oh, man, I don't know. I was maybe Cindric or Briscoe, one of those two, but I'm eliminating Denny Hamlin.
Woo!
I don't like him on road courses right now.
Uh-huh.
I don't like him on road courses at all right now. And Talladega, anything can happen, right? Especially if he dumbass rides around in the back.
I am worried about that too. Plus, he admits that he's not a very good super speedway racer anymore with this next gen car.
Yeah, and Kansas will be fine, but if he has a good Kansas and doesn't win, even if he has a good Kansas and has a shitty Talladega and a mediocre Roval, he's out.
Mm-hmm.
So then it comes down to Briscoe or Cindric for me, and honestly, I could just flip a coin between those two. I think Briscoe is more talented. I think Cindric sets up a little bit better at Talladega type tracks. And I think at the Roval they're relatively equal. Probably a little nod to Briscoe at Kansas. So flipping a coin. I'm gonna say somehow, some way, Austin Cindric makes it through. So Briscoe out.
You're going Briscoe.
I think the 3 points of difference make a factor there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So you're out for this round are Suarez, Logano, Hamlin, and Briscoe.
Yep.
Okay. Definitely, that'd be big news if Hamlin missed it, but we could all see it happening. That's for sure. All right. So I'm going to go with you. I'm also going to go Suarez. I don't think Suarez gets out of this round. And I'm going to go. Oh, man. I'm going to go Cindric. I think Cindric's out.
Makes sense. Yeah, he's a tough one. I mean, I definitely easily could have eliminated him.
Yeah. Man, this is tough. But I am going to go Joey Logano as well. I don't want to steal from you, but I think Logano's out as well.
Yep.
I could see him win in Talladega, but having to rely on that isn't the best feeling.
No, it's not.
So, and I'm going to go with also a big name driver. I think I like Alex Bowman to get through, and I like Chase Briscoe to get through. So I need to pick a big name driver, and I'm going to go a little out on a limb here. Oh, this doesn't feel great, but I'm going to do it. Actually, no, this is fine. I was going to go Byron, but I'm not. I'm going Blaney again. I think all of Penske gets eliminated this round.
I can see that. They're not the most stout team.
Mm-hmm. I think they have. I don't think they have top 5 potential at Kansas this weekend, and I don't like their road course program.
I think Blaney has top 5 potential, but outside of that, yeah, I agree.
I think it's fringe top 5 for him, if much. You know what I mean?
I agree. I mean, he finished 3rd at Vegas in the first race.
He did have a very
of
good
these
car
types
Vegas.
of track races, but yeah,
mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I can definitely see how it could feel like fringe top 5 material for sure. And definitely the road coursing is not their forte right now, other than it's Cindric's forte, but at the same time, his forte is at a road course still has not gotten him a win or anything.
Yeah, so I'm going Penske out. But at the same time, I think the 3 most likely playoff drivers to win Talladega are the 3 Penske drivers. So,
but at the same time, it's hard to win a race where 30 cars can win or something.
Yeah. So I'm going Suarez, Cindric, Logano, Blaney as my 4 out in this round. Nick is going Suarez, Logano, Hamlin, Briscoe. So quite a bit of difference there. We both got Suarez and Logano, but then you're going Hamlin, Briscoe, and I'm going Cindric, Blaney.
Yep.
So both of us have Bowman advancing through this round.
I love Bowman this round. I really do. As long as he doesn't have issues at Talladega, he's through. Like, yeah, you can have issues at Kansas, you can have issues at the Roval, but like, I just see him making it through if he doesn't have issues at Talladega.
Are you worried? Like, obviously, we can't sit here and be like, oh, this driver will be fine at Talladega, or like that's the wild card in this round. So it's the fallback for this. But out of Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, are you worried about those guys at all, unless they have a catastrophic issue at Talladega?
I would even throw Byron in there. I'm not worried about them. Not worried about them. Those 4, I feel like, unless there's double catastrophic issue, they're fine. They're all great at Kansas. They're all great at road horse racing. So you need a problem at Talladega and a problem at one or the other of Kansas and Roval to not make it through, and still probably would be fine as long as you grab some stage points along the way.
And then one more guy that we didn't really talk about that entire time that's in the same category as the Blaney's, the Hamlins, the Loganos is Chase Elliott, 6 points above the cut line starting.
He's an interesting one. Yeah, he's just Mr. Consistent. His upside isn't there, but his consistency is so good, right? And he's gonna be fine at all 3 tracks. Fine to good to great at all 3 tracks, right? So he's just one of those. It's hard to eliminate him because you can't really say he's gonna be bad at a road course because he's good at road courses. He's in a Hendrick car on a 1.5 miles. That should be totally fine. And he's obviously great at super speedways. So it's hard to eliminate a guy like Chase Elliott, even though his upside might be a little capped. You don't need upside right now to advance out of 12. You just need not shitty.
Yep. And full disclosure, and I haven't looked at anything. Like, I haven't even started to break down this first round and look ahead at races. But gut wise, those are definitely my choices.
Yeah, same. Absolutely same. Yeah. And I like what you did going into the playoffs. We gave our picks to get eliminated in round 1, but then you did a full breakdown later. I don't know if you'll have time to, and I'm not saying you should, but definitely our opinions can change if we dived in a little more. I'm not going to be able to just with NFL and stuff, but
right.
All of my stuff right now is just off the cuff, gut feel. I shouldn't say just gut. I mean, obviously we've done analysis of this sport for years and years, and we know these drivers, but yeah.
There's always the sometimes you forget if one driver's like really good at like Kansas, for example. You forget that they're really good and you're like, oh shit, that kind of changes my opinion.
It's when you deep dive that'll change a few things here and there. The little margins.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping I have time to get another one of those out because I enjoy doing those, but it's a lot of work. So hopefully I have some time this week I've started it, but I just have the outline. Like I said, I haven't started digging in yet. So we'll see. But yeah, you ready to talk Kansas?
Let's go. I'm excited. Honestly, I'm excited. You were very excited for Bristol, and so was I, and we thought it was going to be great. It was such a huge letdown that it has pumped me up for Kansas. First of all, Kansas earlier this year was one of the best races of all time. Second of all, Kansas last year, pretty much one of the best races of all time. Kansas fucking produces, dude.
Kansas
produces.
is an incredible track. And we're finally back to a 1.5-mile cookie cutter track. Haven't had one of those since Charlotte, full
Memorial Day weekend,
16 races ago. So Kyle Larson narrowly edged out Chris Buescher in the first Kansas race this year. Chase Elliott came home third, Truex fourth, Hamlin fifth, Christopher Bell sixth after starting on the pole. Bowman finished top 10, as did Kyle Busch, Noah Gragson, and Michael McDowell. Last year's Kansas race, Tyler Reddick won it. For 23-11, Denny Hamlin was second. Eric Jones was good. Kyle Larson, Joey Logano rounded out top 5. A lot of the same guys up here at Kansas. Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman. Those were the top 10 at Kansas last year. But yeah, a lot of these guys that made it and are at the top right now in points. Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and Denny Hamlin are amazing at Kansas. They've been the fastest cars at this track specifically, and the fastest at 1.5 miles this year. As we've talked about before this season, obviously we broke down Kansas once earlier this year. Las Vegas, the best comparison track to look at this year. If you remember the first race, it was Kyle Larson holding off a late charging Tyler Reddick for the win. Blaney was fast in that race. Kyle Busch had a ton of speed in that race. Kyle Busch has been really fast on 1.5 miles all year.
Yep.
Any other tracks that you're looking in addition to Las Vegas when we're looking at comparisons?
I mean, you got to look at the 1.5 miles, right? Like, you can't ignore Charlotte. You can't ignore Texas completely. But you start to get further and further away from that the more you go to like Charlotte and Texas, different repave ages and tire wears and tire combinations and stuff. And beyond that, I don't really think you can go beyond the 1.5 miles. Michigan maybe a little bit, but again, larger, different tires, similar repave age, but doesn't have the same tire wear. So tough to say. But it's the next gen era. We know what happens in the next gen era. Guys that are good at Kansas and Las Vegas are good at Kansas and Las Vegas. You use Kansas and Las Vegas as 90 to 95% of your analysis. You can't bring in pretty much anything else outside of those. And then just like general form, obviously if a team has just fallen off the map or has gotten on the map, you account for that. But by and large, I mean, you're using 1.5 mile form, but not just 1.5 mile form. You're using like the Kansas Vegas 1.5 mile form, sprinkling some of these other 1.5 miles, and then I shouldn't say sprinkling, but then definitely add in like how is the team performing as a whole.
Yeah. And it's going to be a lot of these playoff drivers. Like I fully expect, 8 to maybe even all 10 of the top 10 finishers at Kansas on Sunday be playoff drivers. Like these are the ones that are fast on the track type this year. They're good here. I think we're going to see a lot of playoff drivers up front.
Other
Looking
than
at the odds,
maybe Austin Cindric.
yeah, exactly. But looking at the odds,
let me say this one thing. So we love looking at Vegas and Kansas, but we have to give a few caveats to especially Kansas, right? Look who had already won by the time Kansas had rolled around that are in the playoffs. Kyle Larson had already won. Christopher Bell had already won. Tyler Reddick had already won. William Byron had already won. Denny Hamlin had already won. Daniel Suarez had already won. That's 6 drivers right there that had already won by the time we headed to Kansas who could potentially experiment, right? And I look at somebody, especially like Tyler Reddick, 23-11, has always been dominant at Kansas.
Yep.
And he was pretty, I wouldn't say garbage, but he was a back half of the top 10 car at Kansas. But were they experimenting, right? They had that win. They were already locked in. They looked great at Vegas. Were they experimenting at Kansas? So those are some things to factor in as well.
And that's an interesting topic, and I'm glad you brought it up because that's one of those things where, and I don't think there's an answer to this question until we get practice and qualifying, is, were they experimenting or did they just miss it at Kansas this year because Bubba Wallace wasn't good in that race either.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't experimenting, obviously.
Right. So, and that's that's the hard thing, especially with making early week bets. On a guy like Tyler Reddick.
But then Truex was so good. Hamlin led the most laps in one stage one. Why is it that those guys in JGR were really good, but Reddick and Bubba Wallace were out, like, I shouldn't say out to lunch, but not where they normally are at this track that has been a 23-11 dominant track, especially after they were good at Vegas earlier that year.
Right.
This year.
Yeah, it made no sense. And if I remember right, this first Kansas race ended up being a night race, didn't it? It was delayed with rain, I believe.
Honestly, I don't remember.
I know it ended at night. I don't know. I don't remember if it was scheduled for night or not, but I know it ended at night.
Yeah. Now I have to look. Tyler Reddick was in practice really good. He had the fastest single lap. He had the third best 10-lap average. Bubba Wallace had the 8th best 10-lap average, third best in single lap speed. So very well could have been could have been rain. Oh yeah, rain fell, which caused a 4-hour delay, and the green flag fell at 5:43 Central. So that could have played a big factor in it.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, because it was scheduled for just a normal afternoon race, and then it was because I remember that race ending at night. I just, for whatever reason, that sticks in my head.
Yep. Yeah, you're 100% right. That could have been a huge factor as well. Maybe 23-11 especially had something specifically set up for expected conditions, and then rained, and 4 hours later it's cooler, maybe more humid, green track, all that kind of stuff.
And you know what's interesting is Vegas ended under the lights, I believe.
No, Vegas was not under the lights. I was at that race. Definitely not under the lights.
Okay.
I mean, it was
Why did I think that was at night?
No, it definitely wasn't. We were at that race.
That was a race. I worked that race, so I didn't get to watch it that well.
Yeah. No, it didn't end under the lights. It was a little windy that day. I remember that. I should say very windy that day.
Yes. Yes.
But the wind kind of died down throughout the race. It was still windy towards the end of the race, but it definitely died down. But the start of the race was crazy windy, really cold, not from like temperature, but just from wind chill. So yeah, it was an interesting one. Vegas was, but Kansas definitely ended under the lights because that 4-hour delay.
So Kansas ended under the lights. Sorry, and then Charlotte obviously was a night race, which was the point I was getting at there. Texas was during the day, and then Vegas was during the day. So it's kind of looking at
Vegas was 12:30 local or something like that. Definitely did not end under the lights.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking it did. Well, okay. It was Atlanta was the race before. I watched them both at the bar, and Atlanta ended under the lights.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, you're thinking of Atlanta. Yep.
Yeah, I got that cleared up. But yeah, that could be why 23-11 struggled so much. I think that's a plausible reason. But yeah, they've been good here ever since the next gen era started. Looking at the odds this week, Kyle Larson, the heavy favorite after his dominating effort at Bristol. You can get him at 4-1 right now at FanDuel. He's as low as plus 250 at BetMGM. Then we got Hamlin at plus 550. Got Reddick at plus 750. And then it gets a little bit longer with everybody else. And this is kind of that range of drivers that I'm like kind of eyeing. Christopher Bell's at 11-1. William Byron's at 14-1, as is Martin Truex Jr. We got Ryan Blaney sitting at 15. Chase Elliott's up to 16. A little further down, I know I saw earlier today, I don't know if it's still available, but Ty Gibbs was 25-1. I thought that was a little bit longer than I expected. Chris Buescher, who finished second here and he definitely could have won. Last time here, he's 20-1. Bubba Wallace is 25-1.
Kyle Busch,
you agree
25-1 with his Vegas performance. Yeah.
Do you agree that that Larson should be that heavy a favorite, or you think there's some recency bias going into that?
Especially at BetMGM, plus 250 is completely ridiculous.
That is nuts.
Yeah. But 4-1 is the longest I'm looking at right now. I need to pull up a couple other books to see if I can find anything longer, but I'm seeing longest 4-1 right now. And that is still nuts, right? Like,
yeah,
this is a track where a lot of cars can win. We talked about Alex Bowman. He can win here, right? Obviously, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., who nearly won, or who did, I should say, win the Kansas race. Sorry, that was Larson. Truex was in that mix there at the end of that Kansas race in the 4-wide finish. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that can win this race, and I just named a few of them. Alex Bowman. Ryan Blaney had a really good end-of-race Vegas car. Ross Chastain had a great end-of-race Vegas car and has always been good at Vegas and Kansas. Chase Elliott could win this. Buescher and Keselowski, right? Buescher was in that photo finish earlier this year. Ty Gibbs, you mentioned. Bubba Wallace, 2311's owned this track. Kyle Busch led a bunch of laps, was in the top 5 a bunch at Vegas. Noah Gragson has been really good at Vegas and Kansas. I mean, this isn't we've seen Cole fucking Custer win a cup race at Kentucky, I should say, which isn't the same, but you get the idea. You get a late race restart, even starting 4th or 5th or 6th or whatever it was Custer started, and it can happen if the circumstances work out. He was 200-1, I think it was. So, not the best comparison, but it's still a comparison.
Right.
So, yeah, 4-1 is ridiculous for Kyle Larson. Absolutely ridiculous. You can't bet. A, you can't bet that. But B, he absolutely should still be the favorite. He should just be like 6-1, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I think that'd make a lot more sense. I think the odds are like the correct order. Like Larson, Hamlin, Reddick are right up there. Bell, Byron's the next tier. And then everybody else. But yeah, I'm there's no way I'm betting. There's no way I'm betting any of the favorites this week. But like I said, some of those guys, I believe you bet Reddick already at plus 850, right?
I bet him at 9-1, but we didn't get tracking up until 850. So yeah, I tracked him at 850. I got him at 9-1.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, that's one of those. It just I think you have to bet it at that. Do you feel like that at plus 750 where he's at right now?
I don't hate it. I haven't run a model. I'll straight up say it. I haven't run my model. Don't care. I've been doing NFL. We've been so minor side note. The NFL obviously has a new kickoff rule this year. I'm sure you've seen it, Jordan. It's a little weird. But it threw some wonky stats in the play-by-play data. So I had to figure out how to correct for that in the luck rankings that I do. I shouldn't say correct for it. It was like the play-by-play data we get was basically just flat out wrong in terms of some of the kickoff stuff. And you have to pull in every play. Like if you return a kickoff for a touchdown, you need to pull that in as play-by-play data to have correct luck metrics. And the kickoff data that I get from my data source, which is a data source that everybody uses and has been used for decades. There was key pieces of it that was just flat out wrong based off the new kickoff rules. So once I cleaned that up, I figured it out, but I only figured it out this week because I was going down a rabbit hole because there's been a lot of other changes in the NFL of like more rushing and lower passing length, ADOT is what they call it. All sorts of things that, there's been some changes and I just didn't think to look at the kickoffs. And once I broke it down, like every single type of play, I was like, oh, that's what's throwing my thing off. So that said, I haven't touched NASCAR this week at all. I haven't thought about NASCAR until maybe 15 minutes before we started this podcast.
Right.
Other than
yeah.
looking at opening odds and seeing Reddick at 9-1 and instantly betting that.
Right. Yep.
By the way, shout out to MGM. So shout out to MGM for being the first to open odds.
They opened.
I don't think that's ever happened. They were ahead of Westgate. They were ahead of Caesars. They were ahead of 365. Literally the only book on the planet that had odds open when I bet Reddick was BetMGM. I shouldn't say on the planet. I don't look at offshores and stuff, but the only legal books between Vegas and Arizona was MGM that had odds. And I'm talking Westgate, like I said, Superbook in Vegas. I'm talking stations in Vegas. I'm talking Canby, all the books. Literally the first one was BetMG fucking M. What the hell? What the hell?
I know.
Never seen that.
I know Caesars was taking a while because they're usually first to drop. And I was watching and they didn't have anything. And then all of a sudden 365 opened. I noticed 365 opened and Caesar still hadn't opened. I'm like, that's a little weird, but I never check MGM.
Westgate's usually ahead of Caesars because I live in Nevada, but outside of Nevada, yeah, Caesars is usually the first to drop.
And that used to be, so we used to have Superbook here in Ohio, but they closed down. So yeah, I would always check Superbook first. And now I've moved to, my betting apps, I have them in order of typical NASCAR
the way they open.
Odds release. Yeah, it's Superbook, Caesars, Bet365 is the order that I have them in. But yeah, wow, I can't believe it. Cannot believe it. BetMGM. Interesting.
So big shout outs to BetMGM. I mean, congratulations. This might be the first thing you've ever done, ever, better than anybody else in NASCAR. And that was releasing odds first.
Yes. And not to rain on their parade, but their app still sucks. That is still one of the worst apps I've ever tried to use. I hate that app so much.
And I did just have to update it, and I don't know if it's better yet or not.
So I used to be pure MGM. That'd be the only property I stayed at in Vegas. I love MGM, treated me well. And every time I'd be in the sports book, they'd have people walking around. Have you tried the app? And I'd tell them, I'd be like, yes, I have. It's the worst app I've ever used. That's why I'm using this kiosk. I hate the app. It's slow. It lags. Don't like it.
No, I agree. Hopefully it's better though with the update. We'll see.
I haven't checked for an update on mine, but as far as some of the other odds, I will note I do have one bet in already this week, and I'm eyeing another one. I took Ty Gibbs top 10 at plus 120. I just can't pass up that speed. That car has had top 5 speed at every intermediate track this year. He always has issues finishing races, but I could not pass up plus 120.
I like that,
especially before especially before qualifying.
Okay, Jordan, what about Alex Bowman top 10? Given we just talked about him we just talked about him and how good he is here.
That was my second one I'm eyeing, and I haven't pulled the trigger yet. But yes, I think that's going to be my other
plus
one.
160.
Got it at Fanatics, and it was Fanatics. And Bet365. Yep.
Bet365 I can do. Yeah, okay. I see plus 160 at Bet365. Yeah. I will be making the drive in the morning to Arizona to get that one. Unless I can get that through my relative.
Should I bet that now? I hate having 2 top 10 bets this early in the week.
Didn't you
really
say
like
Alex
that.
Bowman's worst finish in the next gen era?
11th.
At Kansas is 11th.
10th.
And
nope, 10th.
Oh yeah, 10th. And then 10 of the last 11 he's finished something or better.
11th or better, yep.
Yeah. I think plus 160 is just to auto bet.
All right, you convinced me. Putting it in.
Yeah, I just have to take that. That's auto. Easy auto bet there on Alex Bowman, top 10, plus 160. Bet of the week material. Like, honestly. I like it.
Yeah. Like I said, those were the two I was eyeing. I pulled the trigger on Gibbs, and yeah, I have to go Bowman after just kind of briefly looking at that. I was going more Gibbs. I can't pass up that speed, like I said. Bowman hasn't quite had that amount of speed on the intermediates this year, but extra speed in the playoffs that I'm convinced playoff teams have, plus his record here. Yeah, I'm locking that in.
Crunching on some peanuts because we always record like my time around dinner time. It's like a little later than dinner time for me, but sometimes I go for a later dinner and then I get a little hungry, so I had to pop in some peanuts, keep myself appetized until we finish this podcast and then eat some real dinner. I think I don't know what my girlfriend's making. We might have tacos or something tonight. We'll see.
I had fried chicken tonight.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it was good.
I've been doing so. Obviously, not NASCAR stuff, but like, okay, I'm having my beers tonight, but I've been pretty good during like NFL season. I'm not drinking a lot, hardly much at all, and then eating really well, like almost no sugar, almost nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that going for you? You
really
noticing
good.
A big difference, or?
Yeah, huge difference. My GI issues have been way better. I basically don't have any GI issues these days unless I pound a handful of Budweisers like I'm doing tonight, but I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be fine because I've been doing so well with that. And even then, just like if I have chicken, it's not fried. It's just chicken, right? It's just normal chicken or turkey. And so I'm doing a lot of white meat, veggies, fruits, eggs, I mean, basically just not having processed carbs and sugars. And it's made a world of difference other than when I have a few drinks, but that's much less on the radar than it has been in the past. And I mean a lot less, like a lot.
I might have to follow you there. I woke up on Monday morning. I was like early in the morning. It was like 1 a.m. I was convinced that my appendix was rupturing. Like
I've been there, done that.
And I've gone in to have my like test on gallbladder and appendix, and they've never found anything.
Same.
But damn,
I've had my gallbladder tested. I've had my liver tested, like everything, and they've never found anything. It's just straight up eating bad. I shouldn't say bad, but like all those things create inflammation. And I'm not Mr. Health Doctor Man guy. I mean, I'm a math PhD, not that kind of doctor, but it's made a world of difference. And I've been on it for like 2-3 months now, and it's unbelievable. I can drink beers and not feel like absolute death because of it, because I'm not eating all the other bad shit. Right.
Right.
It's been a world of difference. And the other thing is spice. I've had to totally take out spice. I can obviously I'll sprinkle it in here and there, but I'm talking once a month maybe. But
like super spicy, or
I can have like Southwest seasoning, type stuff if you want to like sprinkle some of your seasonings on or whatever. But I used to put hot sauce in everything, I used to spice everything up. Those days are long gone, unfortunately. I love spice, and I'm sure for my birthday at the end of October, I'll spice something up or something and regret it. But spice and cutting out processed carbs and sugars. I know this is a NASCAR podcast, but
right. I was gonna say we're getting a little.
It's been good. It's been good. I that's why I'm chomping on some peanuts right now because they're pretty good and lightly salted instead of highly salted. Much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot your birthday's next month. Hopefully we'll be able to I'll be in Vegas in October, so Hopefully, we'll be
Yep.
able to meet up. And yeah, as far as spice goes, I'm with you. I had to cut back majorly on that. Surprisingly enough, it was after COVID. So I got COVID, and I used to love spicy stuff. Like I did the Blazing Challenge at B Dubs multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. And now I can barely handle pepper on my food. And it's ever since I had COVID, I cannot handle it. I sweat. If I have too much pepper if I have mashed potatoes and I put too much pepper in it, I'm sweating. It's fucking weird, and it sucks because I love spicy food. But yeah, there's a tangent on food for you guys.
Hey, we're all humans, right? We all live lives, and sometimes you got to talk about some other things other than NASCAR, even on a NASCAR podcast.
Exactly.
Let's get back to Kansas.
Yeah. So yeah, Bowman plus 160. Really liking that. Really liking Ty Gibbs at plus 120. A little bit more confident in Bowman's consistency, but I like Ty Gibbs' upside more. So I don't mind having those two top 10 bets. I'll stick with that. Roll those into the race weekend.
Plus money, you're gonna probably hit one of them and make money, if not both, right?
Right. Yep.
It seems like a really low probability that you don't hit one of them. Seems like, I should say, but Kansas always gets crazy. But I like both of those bets, and I would bet that you end up profitable.
What do we think? So, guy that we talked about, Noah Gragson, sitting at plus 270 for a top 10.
He's somebody I want to look at practice, you know?
Not long enough for me to bet it. Obviously, this has been there, but I feel like that line is pretty accurate.
I agree.
Where it's at. Justin Haley sitting at plus 490. We just talked about him. Again, we don't really know what the hell's going to happen, what kind of speed he's actually going to have. Michael McDowell's been a fringe top 10 guy at these intermediates this year. He's plus 420. Again, not long enough for me to bet. A lot of these guys they're not long enough for me to bet. Like I could see the upside here, but they're not long enough. But one guy, and I know you like him on this track type, sitting at plus 1,200 for a top 10 at FanDuel, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. How are we feeling about that?
Feels like you should, right?
Right.
17th at Vegas, 16th at Kansas. Those kinds of results are 1 out of 12. You'll get in there with chaos and stuff. It definitely feels like you should. I'll run my model and then see, you know. I'll try to run a pre-practice model as well, for sure. I have some time off tomorrow. I'm not doing much NFL stuff. It is technically like my day off, but I'll probably end up maybe running the NASCAR model real quick. But remember who I bet at Las Vegas for top 10?
Was it Stenhouse?
No, he wrecked on lap 4.
Oh, no, Zane.
Yeah, he's 16-1. I see out there.
20-1 on FanDuel.
20-1. Yeah, FanDuel 20-1. Little curious about him. And Todd Gilliland I saw 8-1 at 365. I think that's the longest out there. He finished earlier this year at Kansas 14th, right? So eyeballing some longer shots. I do think it would take a little bit of Kansas being chaotic, but nothing I'm like betting right now, but some ones I'm keeping an eye on. And honestly, I mean, John Hunter Nemechek finished 13th first Kansas race this year. So yeah.
I should have saved my 36 for 36 for this week. That fucking bomb.
I'm really, I know we're not 36 for 36, but I'm really, really excited that he only got you 4 points because he only got me 3 points earlier this year.
Yeah. I shout out to FanDuel as well. They've had pretty much the longest odds for almost everything these last few weeks.
Yeah.
They've had some really good odds there in NASCAR. So yeah, Stenhouse and Zane Smith, I'm looking at it, but at the same time, I don't see either of them qualifying well. So I don't see their lines getting super shorter. So I'd rather wait for practice and see what they look like. If that makes sense.
No, it makes 100% sense.
looking at there were some interesting. Let me pull this up. Some matchups.
What price would you need on JJ Yaley to bet his top 10?
75 to 1.
No. 750 to 1.
That's what I meant.
That car is not finishing top 10 unless 30 cars wreck or something.
Speaking of, never even went over this at Bristol. Why is the 66 allowed on the track at short tracks? At any track? That
Anywhere.
Car is so garbage. Like we saw it at Martinsville, and then finally everybody saw it at Bristol this past weekend, how awful it was. That car was so slow. Like, I don't understand why they let that car on the track. I really don't.
I'll tell you what, though. Didn't Parker Retzlaff run the 66 at Richmond? And he was good.
No.
He was legitimately good at Richmond. Yeah, he ran the 66 at Richmond, the MBM Motorsports car. And we talked about this. He was the last car on the lead lap, was the last car on speed, etc. But he kept intact with the car in front of him, usually Kaz Grala or whoever. He was literally always right behind them. He was like, if you look at green flag speed and stuff, he was right there with the other guys that completed the full race. I know he finished 35th because pretty much nobody had a bad race at Richmond. Parker Retzlaff was legitimately good in that 66. I think he lost a lap or two because they were doing some stuff in the pits, but his actual speed was fine.
Yeah, compared to like every other race. I forgot about that, but you're right. That's about the only one that has been, not just completely awful.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on all the rest, right? Like they've all been horrible. Why are they on the track horrible? But I'll give them that one race exception.
That's weird yeah. Huh. Yeah, David Starr at Martinsville was embarrassing.
Why would you even do that? Josh Bilicki at Chicago Street Course was fine, but you're right. I mean, 99% of the time, that 66 car is an embarrassment to the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Matchups this week. There's some interesting ones on Bet365. Just like some names that don't really show up in a lot of matchups. So they got Alex Bowman versus Noah Gragson. Bowman's the favorite, minus 150. They have Austin Cindric versus Daniel Suarez. Suarez is the favorite at minus 200. Cindric's plus 160.
I like Cindric in that. You know how badly Suarez has struggled at intermediates? It's almost like Chase Briscoe that year. He was struggling. I think it was last year at intermediates. And Cindric, don't get me wrong, he's terrible here. But if Suarez is also terrible, plus 160 is pretty interesting. I'm not betting it. I'm just saying, like, it's something I'm going to look into.
I'm pretty sure Greg Mathern bet it. I think I saw that notification come through. Yep, Cindric.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind that. Suarez has not been good on intermediates this year. I don't know what's wrong with that team on intermediates. They have not figured it out.
Yeah, any matchup like that, I feel like they're relatively even on speed this year. So to get plus 160, plus Cindric has been solid as hell lately. Since Iowa in June, he's been top 20 pretty much every race. Qualified 7th here at Kansas last time. Got caught up in a wreck and finished 37th. But yeah, if I had to bet that, I'd bet Cindric's side for sure.
Yeah, certainly. I just think it's probably fair. Like Suarez did just finish 8th at Michigan, right? Which is an intermediate, is high speed. He wasn't amazing, but he was good. I don't know. I definitely, if I had to pick a side to bet on that, I would pick Cindric plus 160. But I think honestly, the price is probably close to fair. But you're right. There are a lot of interesting matchups at 365.
Mm-hmm. We got Austin Dillon versus Josh Berry. Josh Berry's the favorite, minus 140. Your new favorite driver, Josh Berry.
Fuck him.
Carson Hocevar versus Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell's a favorite at -140. Hocevar's at +110. And then Eric Jones
This
versus
is an
Justin
interesting
Haley.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just I opened up head-to-heads and I'm like, wow, these names aren't ones that I've seen before. Like, you typically don't see them.
I'm impressed with the industry pricing on Justin Haley. They've gotten it right. Like, they've adjusted for him going to Spire.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they've adjusted enough for Corey LaJoie going to Workaway.
No. Here's something for you. Top Toyota. Both Bubba Wallace and Ty Gibbs are at 10-1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with Bubba's track record here at Kansas specifically.
And how good
like
Ty
I said,
Gibbs
Ty
was
Gibbs has been so fast at this track type this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and this is uncomfortable, but I'm so heavy already on Ty Gibbs this week.
I know. I hate it, but I like it. You know?
Especially,
I hate that I like it.
Yeah, especially after last week, because I was so heavy on Ty Gibbs in DFS last week. Like, my core was Larson, Gibbs, Haley, and then fill in from there. And,
It's weird, man. It's not a weird week. It's just like we're going back to a place, like you said, we haven't been in 16 races.
Mm-hmm.
Or track type, I should say. We haven't been in 16 races. So it's an interesting, jog your brain, jog your memory type deal.
It's like, but
look at this.
There's also
what the fuck is Kyle Larson -110 top Chevy?
I didn't see that one.
Can I take the no?
Well, it was and I tweeted out before Bristol this last week, which obviously ended up being a bad take, but he was like -850 for a top 10 at Bristol. And I'm like, I would bet the other side 100 out of 100 times because, -110 for top Chevy. Holy shit.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's like that everywhere because DraftKings, he's -115.
Yeah.
Man. To me, that opens up some value though, like on a Byron at +500.
Yeah, I like Byron 5-1. That's pretty fucking crazy, especially when you consider he had the second or third best car at Vegas minus the world's largest trash bag.
Well, not only did he have a great car at Vegas, but he was really good here at Kansas in the first race, if I remember right.
Probably was.
And he was also, he almost won
finished
Michigan.
23rd, but I don't have the... Something happened to him at Kansas? What the hell happened to Byron?
Oh, no, he started in 36. I don't remember what happened to him, though. I could pull up my fantasy race here quick and get it.
The asterisk
Who was
mark.
I thinking of?
Let's go. I love that. Dude, shout outs to Ryan from iFantasy Race. As we always do, but shout outs to him. I love Byron at 5-1 top Chevy. I love that.
Yeah, I might have to put that in. I got some bonus bets on DraftKings I need to use.
I gotta bet that. Yeah, I gotta bet that. So
Byron just had a dud this spring, but that was also, wasn't that the time of year that we thought that he typically starts testing?
He also had 3 wins. They probably were just fucking around, right?
Yeah.
God. That's probably priced in to books not realizing he was just fucking around. Kansas has never been his best track. Like, if we compare Kansas versus Vegas, he's always been better at Vegas. But he's not terrible at Kansas. Finished third in the first Kansas race last year. Finished sixth in the playoff Kansas race in 2022.
He's been the second highest Chevy in 2 of the last 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, minus 110 and minus 115 for top Chevy is just nuts. I understand
it's nuts, but it also says a lot about Kyle Larson.
Oh yeah. But hell, that all that takes for that bet to hit though is Larson to have a slow pit stop at the end. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Byron. I like Byron 5-1 there a lot. Top Chevy.
What do you think, Kyle Busch 9-1?
That's
I might like that a little bit better.
I think I like the Byron one better. Where's 9-1?
Caesars.
Nice. I didn't even have that one open.
Oh man. Gregson top Ford 20-1.
Yeah, I was eyeing that. I think he's potentially even longer somewhere, if I remember. 12, yeah, no. 20-1 would be the longest. That's crazy. That is crazy. He was second for it, I think it was, at Vegas behind Blaney.
Second Ford in the first Kansas race too, behind Buescher.
Wow. Yeah. Might have to sprinkle 20-1 on Gregson. They definitely have figured it out at that track, right? Or at that track type, I should say.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't like fluky. Like, he's been good at them.
Oh yeah, he qualified third at
good.
Kansas. And you remember the Vegas race, he practiced like crazy good.
And he was so fast at the end. Like, he drove to the front.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I think,
if we had a late caution that race, he would have had something to say.
Yeah, he would have. He legitimately could have, I wouldn't say Cole Custered it because I think he's better than Cole Custer. But, like, if there was a late restart from 6th, he could have won that race.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you get the right restart and you have a fast car. Absolutely could have won that race. Yeah, I like Gregson and Byron. I like Byron 5-1 at DraftKings. I like Gregson 20-1 at Caesars for top manufacturers of their respective ones. I don't hate Kyle Busch at 9-1. I still prefer Byron 5-1.
All right. Second bet of the day on this episode is going to be Noah Gragson top Ford. Locking that in right now.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I can't pass up 20-1 at a driver that's just too long for me.
Yeah, I agree. That's incredible value. I'm in on that too. I'm in. 25-1. I mean, sorry, 20-1. No, Gregson. I was looking right below him at Justin Haley, who's not even driving a Ford. Oh my God. I just realized that. Caesars has Justin Haley under top Ford and he's driving a Chevy.
I like how we just got done praising the books for adjusting on Haley and LaJoy, and then
just Caesars though, right? Chevy has Justin Haley. I mean Chevy. Bet365 has Justin Haley as Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shout out to them. DraftKings has Justin Haley as Chevy. It's just Caesars.
Interesting. It's always fun
of course,
when you can find little things like that.
Yeah, and they have LaJoy, obviously, as Chevy at Caesars, and he's a Ford.
Oh, boy.
It's a fun one.
All right, you got anything for Kansas before I just keep making more bets here? Yeah, 20-1 is just out of line with the industry too, because everywhere else has 12.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I like the 20-1 look there for Caesars on Noah Gragson. Do not bet Justin Haley top Ford. Do not bet Corey LaJoy top Chevy. I'm sure it'll get voided, but still, don't do it. Don't risk it.
You think they'll avoid them? I never know what they do with those.
That's the weird thing. Like, books will always be like, "Oh, we made a mistake. We're gonna avoid your bet when you win." But if you lose,
right? Yeah.
To Caesar's credit, when we had the SRX series and Bubba Pollard won the race. No, I think it was Elio Castroneves. Sorry. It was Elio Castroneves came in as a guest driver. Like, he wasn't even scheduled to run the SRX race, but Tony Stewart was like, "You run this race, I'll get you into the Daytona 500," which never ended up happening. But so Elio came and raced the race and won, and he wasn't on the odds board. And Bubba Pollard finished second, and I had a bet on Bubba Pollard, and so Caesars honored Bubba Pollard as the winner because he finished second of the people they offered. Now,
really?
That was 2 years ago, right? That was 2 years ago, but still, to Caesar's credit, they did that. I didn't ask them. They just straight up did it.
Wow. That's quite surprising.
Yeah. I don't know if times have changed, but 100% that's what they did. Same thing happened to my colleague PJ Walsh, Action Network. We couldn't believe it because I think he was in Vegas at that point. We were hanging out and he bet it in person. And I bet it on the app, and yeah, they honored it.
Wow. Even in person,
nice
like to go cash that ticket.
Yeah.
Damn. There is hope in this world.
Yeah, glimmers of hope here and there.
Right. All right, you got anything else for Kansas before we make our picks?
I don't think I do. I'm looking. I'm desperately looking. I don't think I do.
All right. On to picks to win. I had Hamlin last week who finished 4th. You had Buescher who finished 14th. You're still sitting 4 wins on the year. I have 1. I am just abysmal this year when it comes to picks to win. And I'm going to go a little bit outside the box this week. I told you I just have a hunch. I'm going Alex Bowman to win.
I love it.
Kansas
I
too.
love it. Yeah. I love it. Picks to win. By the way, one thing I did just look at. You said, do you have anything else? Race to go to overtime, plus 450. Last 2 races went to overtime. 2 of the 5 next-gen races have gone to overtime at Kansas.
And it's plus 450?
Yep, plus 450 at Caesars. 2 in a row, and 2 of the 5 next-gen races, like I said, have gone to overtime at Kansas.
Speaking of those weird props, so last week I was definitely, when we talked about it on Stacking Dennys last week, the low number of people that end up on the lead lap at Bristol, I was hoping that they'd maybe lay down like a 14 or 15 car line.
Yeah,
they fucking nailed it. Caesars had it at 11.5 or 10.5, and Bet365 had it at 11.5, and it ended up with, I think, 10.
Wow.
Yep, there were 10 cars on the lead lap.
That's pretty good. Nailed it. And not the way we all expected either.
Yeah, exactly. That was just a typical Bristol race.
I don't know if I love race to go to overtime at plus 450, but can't really argue with the trains.
So, just looking at other intermediates this year, Vegas didn't, Texas did, Kansas did, and then Charlotte was shortened by rain.
Yeah. Don't really know what to say about that one. You almost have to eliminate that. Last year, Vegas
Michigan did.
Yeah, last year Vegas 1 did, but not Vegas 2. Charlotte did not. Texas did not. So, but I mean, it happens enough that like plus 450. Feels like,
especially lately, we've had a ton of
value.
Late race stuff. Plus, Corey LaJoie's in a shittier car. You know,
we forgot that factor. 2022, Vegas 1 did, Vegas 2 did not. Charlotte, I think, went into like 500 overtimes because we bet on Denny Hamlin and PJ bet on Kyle Busch. Texas probably did because, Texas did not. It just seems like it happens in about a third of the races, which would be like 2-1. Maybe a quarter of the races would be 3-1. So plus 450 is just pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, if I had to bet that, I would.
I wish they'd offer a no to see if people would bet the no, and then you could kind of get where is the industry on it. But I don't hate race to go to overtime plus 450. Anyway, you picked Alex Bowman. I'm going to pick Kyle Larson.
That's solid. Can't go wrong.
I don't like the price, but I'm just gonna do it. I feel like I've been getting cheeky with my picks recently. So I'm gonna get back to chalk.
I'm looking at these. I always like looking at number of Toyotas, number of Fords, number of Chevys in the top 10. Toyota over 3.5 is plus 130. And last 3 Kansas races, they have had 3, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Especially if 2311 improves from Kansas 1.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. 36 for 36. Okay. John Hunter Nemechek, fuck you.
I think he has the lowest combined now for us this season.
Oh, it has to be. Because I got 4 points from him. You got 3, so that's 7.
Yeah,
I still have to use
7's the lowest of anybody we've both used.
I still have to use Zane Smith. You only got 4 points from him, so that's still in play. And you still have to use your new favorite driver, Josh Berry. And I got 1 point from him. By the way, can we talk about how awful my picks were at Bristol this year for this game?
And no Gregson.
3 points still. 3 points from Gregson at Bristol 1 and 4 points from John Hunter Nemechek at Bristol 2.
I got 24 total points from Zane Smith, who, of course, no, I should say Carson Hocevar at Bristol 1. Of course, had a better Bristol 2. And 16 points from Allmendinger at Bristol 2. So I didn't do much better, 24 versus 7. But, 7's not ideal for you.
No. I really wish I would have. Obviously, we both wish we would have took Larson last week. Damn, that would have been
60 points max.
Yep. But
we both had him available. Oh man.
Yep. Not to spoil it, but my pick for Kansas is number 5, Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson for Jordan at Kansas. I'm going the Wasp.
That's a good pick.
He's already won here, man.
That's a good pick.
He's already won here.
Yep.
I don't have any other analysis than that. He's won here.
You know what's awesome is with your Allmendinger pick last week and your Byron pick at Watkins Glen, we cannot have the same drivers anymore of these races.
Yep.
So
exactly. We are officially out of same drivers. So every race is going to be different. We're not going to have, and I needed that. Like that was me intentionally doing that. It was my only way to catch up. In a larger pool, I wouldn't recommend it necessarily. But in this spot where I'm down massively, that's my only hope at a comeback. I just need Bubba Wallace to just, right rear hook Kyle Larson again, but not get parked this time.
Yeah. Caesar's already moved that Gregson line.
Oh, holy shit.
10-1.
There you go. Jordan nuked the Gregson line.
Oh, Jesus. Damn.
Yeah, it's funny. Yep.
Sorry.
I love it. Sorry to all you listeners out there.
Damn, it's down to plus 850. That thing has to, who the hell's is
somebody's like listening into us live or something.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, it legitimately it was 20-1. Now it's 8.5 to 1. Holy crap.
I wonder if that's their automatic, like they have to have systems in place that automatically adjust it down, and then they come through, and we'll see where it ends up later tonight or tomorrow. But damn.
Yeah.
Well, don't bet it at plus 850.
Yeah, do not bet it at plus 850. Do not do that. Still
Damn.
like Byron 5-1 at DraftKings. That's not Caesars.
Damn. All right. So yeah, you got Bubba Wallace. I got Kyle Larson. 36 for 36. You are 72 points behind. Gained 10 points at Bristol with 7 races left. You got time.
I just need A.J. Allmendinger to wreck on lap 1 at the Roval. I just need Kyle Larson to wreck on lap 1 at Kansas. I just need pretty much what I need is those things to happen.
You remember last week, I almost talked myself out of Nemechek and went Zane Smith instead.
Yeah, that would have been huge.
Yep, that would have been if I end up losing this, that's going to be, I think, the decision that was like the difference maker. Because I'm confident with the rest of my picks.
I agree.
Oh man. All right. I don't got anything else. Do you?
I do not.
All right. Good luck to everybody this week, Kansas. And we'll be back next week to talk about Talladega. And round number 2. Hell yeah. I am also...
That'd be fun because it's not a cutoff, so we might get those riders arounders, but we'll also might have some desperate ones.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's gonna be an interesting one. I'm on vacation that weekend.
Nice.
So it'll be nice to relax and not have to Super Speedway race is always a little easier on the content side of things.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. All right. Good luck, everybody. See you next week.